Hello humans, hello humans. April 24th, just about 8 o'clock in the morning, heading inland rain. Actually not unexpectedly because we had so many chemtrails yesterday that, you either get rain or, in this case, sometimes they'll make big mats of chemtrails that blow east. And in which case we usually just get a lot of wind and don't necessarily get any rain. So, it's a little bit different. So, it wasn't unexpected, but still, the chemtrails are becoming more and more blatant. Okay, so in my research, I found stuff going back to 1958. Well, actually, 57 was when the studies were done. The article was written up in 58, and then we've had discussions of it ever since. We find references to geoengineering in coal fly ash, which is what they call the stuff that results from burning coal because it's like a near fluid. It's so lightweight, you can literally drown a human in this stuff, right? Because it acts like a fluid. Anyway, so I found references going back into the 50s of using coal fly ash, and then it took them 3 decades to get really into it. So the 90s, and by then, all of a sudden, $1 billion a year fly ash disposal problem disappears. And we just don't spend $1 billion a year anymore on fly ash, disposing of this stuff. So, something's up, something's going on there. Now we're buying fly ash from China, the world's leading producer, and it's like, okay, what's up with that? Well, it just so happens that coal fly ash matches almost 100% every assay that's ever been done of the chemtrails coming out of the sky. Gotta drink some coffee and take some of my supplements, down to my vitamin C's. I take about 4 to 5 grams of that a day, as per Linus Pauling. Anyway, boys, so much to talk about. I'm not particularly concerned about the day-to-day events that are going on and the histrionics that they're trying to get all genned up. That's all for the normies. That's all to try and bust these people out of the psychological programming that they've been hit with. So, let me back way up. Most, with the exception of one guy from our old parts group who's still there, every one of them has been kicked out of Russia because of the USA versus Russia thing, right? Or, the West, NATO versus Russia. So, these guys, these old parts, are all American or Western European, and a lot of them were expats in Russia for a number of years. And everybody's fighting to get back in. They got to go through so much rigmarole, you wouldn't believe it. But also, by the way, if they're Jewish, oh my god, this one guy, he was kicked out. I think he's over in Croatia at the moment, and he's just like, hanging out there. He's gotta rent a house, he's gotta take care of himself, he's gotta arrange all of his banking, and all of this kind of stuff. Anyway, his father was Jewish, okay. So that doesn't really make you a Jew according to the way that the Jews think about it. It's gotta come through the mother, and he's never thought of himself as a Jew, and he's British and his last name is Humphreys. Well, that's also a bad thing because the Russians, have it in for some people from England that were out of the Humphreys family. But anyway, so he's gotten so much crap, you wouldn't believe. And basically he probably will not be allowed back in, but he had lived there for, 6 or 7 years before all their shit came down, so it's just the nature of things, right? So, the gender up and take over Ukraine, and all the money laundering and stuff has pissed me off because it's fucked with our efforts here at this level. But anyway, that's the way we are now. Dealing with the emergence of all of these disparate effects, symptoms of the hypernormality. Now we're gonna get into some serious hypernovelty. as far as the scientist kind of guys are concerned, relatively quickly, right? So, I got a big run of data, not gonna go into how I got that. I've been slowly working it through. A lot of processing on this shit, right? You don't just grab the data and look at it. You got to go through all kinds of various different, they used to call them subroutines, but now they call them abs, in order to get it processed to the point where it makes any kind of sense. Anyway, we're coming up to the point here really quickly. I think in May, maybe by the 13th, 14th, or 15th. There's all kinds of financial turmoil going on in May, but mostly my finances are as they are, and I'm not going to react or do anything, so I just don't really care much about things like stock market crashes and that sort of thing. It will make a big impact on my life. It's going to upset the entire structure of the planetary supply chains, okay, and it's going to impact me. However, there's very little I can do about it now because it's going to be an ongoing problem for a number of years, and so I can get as prepared as I possibly can. One of the things I'm going to do is to re-establish a theory out here on the coast and make my own honey, just something to do right. Also, I used to have bees and I like this new contactless bees in plastic jars thing. You can look on my Twitter feed for a YouTube video about it. But in any event, the disruption here, the supply chain disruption, is going to be serious enough that it will get everybody's attention, and this will be part of the normies becoming aware of hyper-novelty in June. So, it's not like there's a threshold. It's not like there's one day it's hyper-novelty and then the next day it isn't. It's like hyper-novelty is a function or an effect of these extra energies coming in from the galactic center, and so it builds. It's been ongoing since last year, certainly since March, April, or May of last year. So we've been in the energies that account for hyper-novelty for at least a year, but the effects are subtle to begin with and they build. Then at some point, you as an individual become aware of those effects on the time and events around you and you say, oh, this is really new, this is really novel. And then it's like, wow, everything is really new and everything is really novel. Hyper-novelty, but it's an issue of you recognizing it, not you being sensitive to it, you being aware of it, not that one day it's there and then the next day it's not. Or that one day it's not and then the next day it is. It just doesn't work that way. But we're in hyper-novelty, we're in these energies now, and by the calculations that I'm doing relative to the state of the yugas, we're in this energy that will build up into the silver and gold age for the next 10,000 years, haha. So it's like, hey, okay, no point getting all whipped up about it because it's going to be an ongoing thing for quite a while. So anyway, in June is about when I expect the normies to really start becoming aware of it, right? And with the normies, it's going to be a little weird because for me, I became aware of hyper-novelty as something that's coming along, and I've been aware of it for years and years. Decades even, because it's something that's forecast in the data and it's a naturally occurring aspect of the yugas. But I've been aware of it, and I just thought, there was no point mentioning it till just recently because why tell you 7 years out, oh, you're going to come to a period of time where your mind's going to be just blown by all the new stuff that's happening, It's meaningless at that point, right? But a year out, to describe to you that we're going to go into a period of time where your emotions are going to be up, trashed. You won't know what's going on, new stuff, blah blah blah, only a year out, and then we discuss it as we get to it. Then you will recognize it a little easier because you don't have to wait 7 years, right? So anyway, What's going to happen is the financial crap in May will lead to a whole lot of political and party like, Democrat, Republican, that kind of stuff. Political at that level, like individual to the party's politics, but also at a party level and a national level and an international level. The financial crap that's going down in May is going to have impacts on the supply chain such that by mid-June, according to my calculations, and I can be wrong on this, but such that by mid-June, we get to a point where the normies are starting to say, something ain't right, this isn't normal, right? So normies will lose their sense of normality, and at that point, when all of your anchors are gone, then you have to actually examine your boat, right? You got it. So with all of these social temporal anchors removed, the normies are going to be without normality, and then they'll have to rely on whatever it is they've got internally because there won't be external support for their opinions and so forth, right? Just like so many of them are running into the conflicts inherent in an anti-Israel stance because it's all fraught with all kinds of conflicts relative to the social order. This, by the way, is all by design. The NGOs, the communist cohorts, are trying to use the whole Gaza situation to engineer a bunch of social changes, right? Just as they did with the situation of the degradation of the social order in Germany prior to, that they used to get Hitler into power and then do things that caused, including the hoax that is the Holocaust. And so, you'll have Jews that will deny that the Holocaust is a hoax, in spite of the fact that you can show them all this evidence that none of that happened, that there's evidence. Factual evidence, family history evidence, and so on that most of this was made up. Giant fields in the Rhine Valley, and even now in the Rhine Valley, you're not allowed to farm because you will dig up the bones as you try to plant, and they don't want you digging up millions of bones out of these fields. So, this is the horrific nature of our reality, right? Is the hole in the door, the fake Holocaust, all these other peoples, and this is where we're at. So now, Jewish people are going to have an especially tough time as we go from May forward because along with some of the financial issues, we're going to get into this breakdown, I guess you'd say, the breakdown of the ability of the Elohim worship cult to maintain Jewish control over basically anything but also specifically over science and medicine. Okay, so if you thought that it was a scandal that, what's her name, the person at Yale or Harvard or wherever she was, that did the plagiarism, wait until you see what's coming up over these next few months. So maybe by the time we get to September, if anybody's paying attention, because there will be way too much going on in daily reality to really get into it. But we may have hundreds and hundreds of new articles and stuff coming up, videos, that kind of stuff, coming out saying, oh my God, look at this, Einstein plagiarized from this guy from 1853. And that's where E equals mc squared came from. And even then they acknowledged that it was worthless to know this information because it wasn't actionable in a mathematical sense. But that's the kind of stuff we're coming into. You're going to come into the fact that Einstein had multiple wives in the sense of homosexual wives that were, or mistresses or whatever you want to call them, that were kept off. Not that that makes any difference to the fact that it was plagiaristic. Basically fuzzy-headed thinker, right? So, the Einstein stuff's going to start being really chipped away here over these next couple of months, such that by next year, this time next year, late spring, early summer of 2025, we'll be actively rooting out and undoing Einstein. And all these other people will keep good science, like Feynman, even though he was involved in all of this, was a deep Elohim worship cultist and supported the whole worship cult agenda. Feynman did good science and good math. We'll keep that kind of stuff, right, in spite of his intent and so on. But this is going to be the really rough period of time. So, I expect it's going to be really, really hard on people like Brett Weinstein, Eric Weinstein, all of these science Jews. You know, because you got to understand it from their perspective. They were told that Jews are the smartest people on the planet. Jews are in control of science because they're the smartest people on the planet. And they're going to discover none of this is true, right? That Jews are not the smartest people on the planet by far. They simply have a clever adaptability towards organizational co-option, right? And really, that's the only thing. Then they promote that they're the smartest, and then they denigrate everybody else. And then we end up with the mass media saying, this is the way it is. Everybody believes it, and this is the world we're in. That's in the process of changing now. It's going to be really weird for these guys, especially Eric. Okay, so in my opinion, this is my analysis. I think Eric Weinstein really wants in on the UFO stuff. Okay, at a personal level, I also think that he is a very confused thinker. He does not think clearly, especially about science and math. It doesn't have a personal rigor in his thinking, as my way of describing it. Anyway, he's going to have a real hard time as Jewish people are going to be deliberately ignored or passed over relative to this emerging new science. So as we get into the real stuff of exposing the reverse-engineered alien reproduction vehicles and stuff, they're not going to be asking Eric to participate in this. There's reasons for this. It's going to come out later. We'll see these reasons come out in like August or September, along with this flurry of UFO information that's going to be coming out. It's going to be quite interesting relative to that. Now, the financial stuff in May. I'm expecting the collision of the Nasdaq and the stock market and the bond market, but mainly the bond market to be running the collision of the bond market with reality. Okay. And this collision is not going to be good for the bond market nor for reality for that matter. So that's going to start this degradation in the fiat assets, and no, I do not subscribe to Joe's opinion on this crash thing, right? He says we've had the crash in April here, that's fine, okay. We headed down. This is predictable. It always happens before the halving, and then it turns around and goes up after the halving, and we're there now. We passed the halving on the Bitcoin, and the trend is now going to be up for a while. And we're going to get to a point here, according to my data in May, in which we have the simultaneous, okay, so in which we'll have a bond problem. The bond problem is going to be relative to retirement systems and stuff in Europe and here in the US, but more in Europe, and these bonds are going to be found to be fake, so not redeemable, and it's going to cause all kinds of problems for the banking system, and you'll hear rumors of the Fed deliberately buying bad bonds, okay, because they don't want their good bonds to become suspect, to become tainted. So it's going to be a weird situation because there's going to be a drain out from the Fed as they are attempting to reinflate the economy. And it won't reinflate primarily because a lot of the payout will be on bad paper, and how they're going to manage that in terms of on their books. But the effect is going to be that the purchasing power won't exist, and it'll just keep crumbling, and then they're going to have to start trying to buy back more bonds, etc., etc. It's going to get up to a point where the Fed will induce hyperinflation within the bond market. which is going to be really weird because that will expose that hyperinflation into our regular world, right? And so, maybe you've got a $14 Subway sandwich now, right? And after we get into this bond stuff, so maybe by fall or in the winter, it'll be $140 for a Subway sandwich. I mean, it's going to be that dramatic in terms of the impact on the fiat out and about in circulation, and it's going to get really complex and very, very weird. You can protect yourself with gold, silver, Bitcoin, etc., because these will be holding stable purchasing value relative to the decreasing purchasing value coming out of the fiat paper, fiat dollar, the petrodollar. Okay. So, you can preserve what you have that way, and in the case of Bitcoin, and some of these things, Bitcoin actually specifically, is the best performing asset in all of history. So, it's going to continue on in this projected trend line as we go forward, and we're going to see that the effects of the people buying gold and silver will be to provide a level of stability when the fiat system becomes itself unstable, right? Like oscillating and too unstable to be functional. So one day your dollar can buy, one day a thing of eggs might. Well, it doesn't matter. But the expression of it is going to be that the money is going to be really wonky. And you'll have this feeling that you won't know until you get up in the morning what that dollar will buy that particular day. Just the way that this stuff's going to progress, it's going to be quite odd for all of us. So it's not like you can store 2 years worth of eggs or something, right? So you need to think about this differently. You get chickens, and raise, grow greens and stuff for chicken feed, and learn to feed chickens on local manure in this kind of depth, right? Because they root through the manure, turn it into really nice garden fertilizer, and they eat out all day a lot of the insects. So that's a function anyway. This is the state of our summer. It's going to be extremely chaotic, and you're going to have all of these disruptions to what you might think of as ordinary life. I got a big road hazard here. I gotta pay attention to what's going on. Cops have got a bunch of people pulled over. It's not that bad, okay. So trust truck, I'm going to have one of those soon. I got my engineers out there getting that stuff done. And we'll start submitting plans and seeing how messed up we are in next week or the week after. It takes forever, and then you run into obstacles. So anyway, I gotta get into town to my first stop here. I got lots and lots of stops, zigzagging all over the place. But anyway, then I'll be doing some further inland driving for secret missions later on, maybe this week, maybe next. Okay, so for me, one of the exciting parts of this coming to science, Summer of Chaos, is the impact on the science, right? Science is going into chaos, and out of that will emerge real science instead of this political edict that we've got, right? That you can't question this guy because he's Jewish and he's the charge. He's in charge of physics, and it's like, no, yeah, he's Jewish, but he's still a poor thinker, he doesn't grasp a lot of stuff. Einstein, Eric Weinstein, doesn't matter, they're all the same in that regard. They've been put into those positions, and I actually think that sort of wrinkles a little bit on Eric. He thinks of himself as being particularly brilliant, and so it kind of is annoying to him that they promoted him instead of letting him find his real level, kind of a deal, just my opinion though. Anyway, coming into it now, so I'll try and do another one of these later. So many stops, I just don't know, there's a lot to discuss. Now to end here in May is my chemtrail awareness contest, and so what you have to do is you have to post it on Twitter, Don't send it to me via email because I'm not going to post it for you, okay? So if you don't have a Twitter account, you're not going to be able to have a shot at this. But if you got a Twitter account, you post a picture of a chemtrail, and the picture that gets the most likes and the picture that gets the most retweets, assuming they're separate, right? So you can't win 2 or more of the prizes. Here, the gold coins, right? The 1-ounce gold eagles, so it's only 1 per individual. So, only 1 individual can win 1 category, and so it'll be the most liked chemtrail picture and the most retweeted chemtrail picture as of coming into June. And then there will be another one, which is the most retweeted chemtrail video, and so that'll also get a gold coin anyway. So, make sure you submit your pictures and get your friends to like and retweet your submission in order to get a shot at this. And we'll go into some of the other chemtrail stuff later on. Okay, guys, I gotta get moving, stuff's happening,